Hi everyone! Today I am talking all about projects that you're not loving. What do you do about it? When do you give up? When do you push through? Let's get into it. So there's all sorts of different stumbling blocks. One stumbling block, it's probably the one that I run into the most often, is just a lack of desire to keep going. I have 5. I brought 5 projects out. These are the 5 projects that I have on my needles or my crochet hook, and I kind of use them interchangeably, knitting and crochet. They're my yarn and sticks projects. And I have 2 of them that are just, I'm not stuck. Like, I don't not know what to do. I don't think they're coming out badly. I don't dislike what's happening. I'm just not into it. I'm not feeling it. I don't want to work on it anymore. So one of them is this one. So this was some hand spun yarn that I did years and years, probably almost a decade ago, and a shawl that I'm working on with it. And it's a lovely yarn that I love, and I spun it myself, and I'm making up the pattern, and it's all going well, and I like it and all the things. I don't want to. And it's probably been 2 years. It may even be longer than 2 years with this one, that I'm not feeling it. This is another one. This one is actually some of the yarn that we have for sale. This is our cashmere yarn. I'm blanking on the name of this yarn. I'm a bad salesperson. Dave is pulling his hair out right now. It's not Feast. Anyway, so this is one of the yarns we have for sale in our truck. I don't remember what it's called right now, but it's a lovely squishy, like, Aran weight yarn. The colors I really love. I love how the project is coming out, where it's one color is one side and one color is the other, and I like everything about it. I'm more than half done with it. I'm just meh. I don't want to. So that's probably the biggest issue that I run into, is that just nothing has gone wrong. I'm just not in the mood for that project. So when do you know that you just need to do it anyway? And when do you know that, like, you're not feeling it, you don't want to do it, it's time to give up on that project, rip it out and make something else. Just call that one a wash and start over. My first thinking, when I get into this position, the biggest thing that probably triggers this for me is a change in the weather. So if I start a project, like I started this in the fall last year, and then I didn't finish it before it started to get warm again in the spring. And so it's a thick cashmere blend yarn and crochet, which is a thick fabric, and it's a shawl, and I'm like, I'm not gonna wear this. I don't want it. It's too hot. I don't want it on my body. So I put this down when the weather started to get warm. So my first thought is kind of remind yourself that it exists every once in a while. But it's okay to say, you know what? I don't want to do winter things in the middle of summer. That's fine. I live in Indiana and it's August. I'm dripping sweat right now because I was just outside. And our office, where I record these lovely videos, is not air conditioned. So it's probably 103 degrees in here, not even kidding. And it's okay. Just give yourself permission to say, you know what, I'm gonna wait till a different season because it's too hot, and revisit it then. Once it starts to cool down, see if you like it more. This one is a bit different. This one has been on the back burner for long enough that this is not just like it's the wrong season. This one is a thinner yarn. It's a hand spun, so I don't have an exact, like, what thickness is it, but it's in the neighborhood of a fingering weight, like a sock yarn. And I think my issue with this one is I just don't love it. To me, when I do when I work with my hand spun yarn, I feel like I need to have the best project ever. It needs to be like magical unicorn project, so that I just love it and I can't wait to wear it and do it and make it. And this pattern just wasn't that. So I made this pattern up as I went. This is basically this was the impetus. I started this one 5 years ago, but the pattern that I most recently published, with the yarn truck at the end of the rainbow yarn, it'll come to me. I'll put a link in the comments. The most recent pattern I released on Ravelry. This piece is basically what inspired that piece. So I started this 5 years ago. I really liked most things about it. I didn't like how long it took to get to the end. I wish there was some more color variation in it. And so I started another piece where I sort of corrected those issues that I didn't love about it. But I think the real issue with this is it's not something that sparks joy. If you're a Marie Kondo kind of a person with all of that stuff, it's just not right. It doesn't make me happy. It doesn't make me want to finish it. I don't see myself wearing it, and so it's just like, yeah, it's not quite right, and I'm not going to use it anyway. So why would I finish it? So I think for this one, my honest opinion is I'm never going to finish this. I'm not going to really use the finished product. It's time to call this a day. Unravel it and make something else perfect with it later on, when I have that perfect thing. So that's kind of my assessment with this one. Now it's a little bit hard for me to justify pulling out until I have something else to do with the yarn, because let's be honest, I have a lot of yarn. A yarn store is parked in my driveway 100% of the time. So it's hard for me to justify ripping out something where I don't have another purpose for the yarn. So I've kind of given up on this project. I know I'm probably not going to finish it, but I'm also probably not going to unravel it anytime soon. This is just sort of in limbo until something that really draws me in gets going with this one. So that is my second of 5 projects that I'm not enthusiastic about. So both of those, if I were to categorize why did I stop the project, the answer is ennui. Like, they're just not right. I'm just not feeling it. I don't want to. There's nothing wrong with the pattern or the yarn or anything. I don't want to wear it. I don't want to work on it, whatever. You can either pause them and say, let's give it a season. Let's see, is this because it's really hot out? Is this because it's really cold out? Whatever of those reasons. If you've paused it for a while and you've gone back to it a couple of times and you're like, yeah, it's just not for me, it's allowed. You're allowed to say, I got enjoyment out of that yarn and out of that project when I worked partially through it, and it's not for me, so I will get different enjoyment out of it, taking it out and starting a new project. That is allowed. This project fits into a different category. So this project I started, it will be 2 years ago in November. It's now August, so it's not quite 2 years, but it's getting on for 2 years. This is a sweater for my husband, for Mr. Nomad, for Dave, for our yarn dyer who does all of the dyeing of our hand-dyed yarns. This is a sweater for him. I knit him one sweater once, 12 years ago, before we were even engaged. The boyfriend sweater curse, totally not a thing. We've been married for 10 years. But he wore it to death. He wore it every single day that it was cold enough to wear a sweater for like 10 years, and I've mended it 100 times. And I got to the point with that sweater that I'm like, I'm not mending this anymore. The yarn is just disintegrating because it's been worn 500 times over 10 years. And it's the only sweater that he owns. So I decided to start knitting him another sweater. And I got to this point, so it's a top-down raglan with a little neck, and he's tried it on, and it's cute, and it's working, and all the things. Why I'm stuck on this pattern, on this project, and this is something that I think happens to a lot of people, is I don't know how long to make it before I start the ribbing at the bottom. And it seems ridiculous that it stopped me for 2 years, but it has. Because I'm making it up as I go along in terms of the pattern, so I'm not following along in something that says do this many rows or do it until it measures this many inches. So I've measured his body to see the number of inches. I've had him put it on to see how many number of inches. And I can't get a good read on, is this time to start the ribbing or should I go longer? Because if you have ever seen Dave in person, he is very long-waisted, which is code for it's very often that the top of his pants do not meet the bottom of his shirt, which is not so much the look that he personally is going for. So my temptation is to make his sweater very, very long, because that's what I do for me. I have the exact same issue. I'm very long-waisted, and if I just buy off-the-rack pants and a shirt, I get a gap all the way around my midriff, which is not a look that I am particularly drawn to for me to wear. So my inclination is to make this sweater 4 inches longer than Dave sort of wants it to be based on commercial sweaters. So we've kind of hit a roadblock there of the reason that I haven't worked on this for 2 years is because I can't figure out, am I done now or do I knit 4 more inches before I put the ribbing on? If you too find yourself at this sort of stalemate, what I would recommend you do is voice it out loud, like I just did. Say, what is the specific issue? Are you stuck at a point in a pattern where you don't understand the next set of instructions? Are you stuck because you don't know how long to make your sweater, how long to make your sleeves, how long to make your ribbing? If you're doing something where you do your edging in a different color, when to switch colors, or what specific thing is tripping you up? If you like the yarn and you like the pattern and you want the finished object and you're not sick of it because it's 5,000 degrees outside, if there's a specific thing that's bothering you, name what that thing is and ask for help. Ask for help online, through a Facebook group or Instagram, or just friends or family if you're meeting up, or if you do like online chats or whatever, try it on. Ask someone. Put it on yourself and take a picture and ask a friend. Get some sort of external input. If you're stuck on something and you just don't know the right answer, ask for help. If it's a technical question, ask for help from technical people. If it's a fashion question, ask for help from people whose fashion sense you appreciate, to really understand exactly what it is. And just, I think, being very specific and naming what the problem is and asking for help with it, I think can jumpstart you to go forward again. So I'm going to take my own advice, and tonight I'm going to talk to Dave about exactly where he wants his sweater to hit him. I'm going to do the math to write out how many rows that I need to do before I start my ribbing, how much ribbing I'm going to be doing, and then I will be able to move on with this in the hopes that it will be actually ready to wear when it starts to get cold again, which I hope is happening, because right now it feels like it's never going to get cold ever again. My other tip for projects would be, like, every ball of yarn that I'm using for this project is in this bag. There's like 10 more balls of yarn in here. I would recommend doing that. I think one thing that trips a lot of people up in working projects is they can't find all of their materials. Maybe this is just me, but I feel like I hear people talk about this, where you're ready, something that sort of stops you in your project. You're making good progress, everything is going well, you know you have 3 more balls of this yarn, but when you're ready to start the next ball, you can't find it. Or you can't find the buttons that you are going to use with this, or you can't find the contrast color, or you had the pattern to do it and the pattern got put someplace else and now you can't find it, or the needles for the sleeves because you're going to do those on double points rather than circulars. So my recommendation to avoid those kind of issues is put absolutely everything that you are going to need for your project into a bag. It can be a fancy knitting specific bag. It can be a plastic grocery bag. It can be a piece of fabric that you tie the corners up of. It can be a plastic bin. It does not have to be fancy. It can absolutely be something you already own, but put all the parts together in one place. And I just think you're going to set yourself up for success a lot more if everything is in one place. Okay, I have two more. I have two more projects that I'm going to talk through. I'm hoping that this is helpful for just me to go through my own examples. I'm hoping I'm hitting snags that a lot of other people hit as well. This is very vintage. This is possibly before I opened the store, which was in 2010. That was 11 years ago. So this is a very, very old project. This was from like before Dave moved here from England kind of thing. And it was a skirt. I mean, I guess technically it still is a skirt. But it's got gores, which means like they're knit in pieces, and you've got this like, it looks like a seam. It's not actually a seam. It's you bind off and then you pick up stitches. But this like nice, interesting, undyed gray. This is actually a hand spun yarn of mine with Angora rabbit from my pet rabbit when I had a pet Angora rabbit. I have tons more of the yarn here. This whole bag is full of the yarn to do it. I have, obviously the needles are still in it. I have the pattern. I can actually tell you what pattern it is. It's a Knitty originally. Sidewinder, fall 2008. Fall 2008. So it's an old project. And I will never finish this. This is one, I've known it for 5 years, that I'm not going to finish this. I have no need for the yarn, so I haven't taken it apart. I gave myself permission a long time ago. One, the yarn is Angora. I don't want to say that I'm allergic to Angora because my kid has like food allergies and goes into anaphylactic shock and dies. I don't have that kind of allergy to Angora, but it makes my nose really itchy and it makes me sneeze a lot. I don't wear Angora. So if I'm working with it, it's not terrible. My eyes get a little bit itchy and I just sneeze a little bit more often. But if I'm going to wear something made of Angora, I'm going to be miserable. So unfortunately, like I had an Angora rabbit. I have a lot of really beautiful hand spun, I spun it, Angora yarn. And there's nothing I can do with this because there is no application that I can wear this in and not just physically be very uncomfortable. And so for that reason alone, I dropped the last ball of this. For that reason alone, this project is kind of a no-go. And I think at the time in 2008 when I started it, I think I knew that, and that's why I wanted it as a skirt, because I'm like, it's far away from my face, so it won't be that bad. It's still not going to be great. But the other issue with it, multiple issues I guess. One, I've never worn a knitted skirt. It's not an item of clothing that I see myself wearing. It's not like I've never worn one because I desperately want to and I just haven't found the right one. It's kind of more like that's just not an item of apparel that I've ever felt the need to have. And so I don't see myself suddenly wearing a knitted skirt. The other issue is I am not the same size that I was in 2008. I'm not even remotely the same size that I was in 2008. I'm probably twice the size that I was in 2008. That skirt is not going to fit me, not even a little bit. And so this project isn't going to work. And that's okay. It does not have to work. It's, by the way, the bag, to further date it, it's I Heart Chef, as in Sheffield, which is a city in England that I lived in 2008. It was very sweet when I left. The people, my friends that were there got the bag for me to remember. But it deserves better than to hold the piece of knitting that I'm never going to finish. So it's okay to say, you know what? I know that this is not for me. I can let it go. I can find a new home for it. If I want to rehome that piece as is, so I've already done quite a bit of knitting on that. If I want to find somebody who loves that skirt pattern and wears a similar size that I did in 2008 and Angora doesn't make them sneeze, that may be a great candidate for rehoming sort of as an entire project. Or to just rehome the yarn because I choose not to work with Angora because it makes me physically uncomfortable. So I feel like I've done the full spectrum from like okay, you need to push through and do it anyway, to there's a little bit of an issue, let's figure out how to solve the issue, to like, no, there's just 15 things about that make that not the right project for me. I feel like this one sort of straddles all of those. This is right in the middle. So I've talked about this exact project several times here on my technique, here on the technique chat. This is the wool sweater out of hand spun, basically scraps of all different pieces, but that I'm making my kid as a winter, sort of a winter jacket coat kind of a thing. I want to felt it. This is heavy, so that, I mean, the weight registers when I'm holding it up. And this is for my 3-year-old. He's a big 3-year-old, but he's 3. And I'm so close to done. When I was holding that up, like the hood is done, the sleeves are finished. I have, well, not basically, absolutely everything is done except for the button band. So I've done everything. I'm just coming up here to finish this edge, weave in the ends, and create the button band so that this has a way to be closed. And I just don't want to. This is not the fun part for me. This is 100% an example of you need to power through and do it anyway. I get to this point a lot with projects as well, where I start to doubt myself. I'm like, he's not going to like it. It's not going to fit. The felting is not going to work right. It doesn't look good. He's never going to wear it. We're never going to use it. This whole project was dumb. I go into my own brain with all of that a lot. When I get almost like to this point of a project where there's basically like a half hour left, and I suddenly start going on the loop of like, oh, I shouldn't have done it at all. This 100% power through. Finish it, get it all the way done, and see at that point. And I think that there's a very real tendency to sort of second guess yourself or doubt your abilities when you're really close to the finish line, because it's like once you're done and you're wearing it out into the world, it can feel scary, like people are going to judge you for it. So it can be very easy at that point to be like, never mind, I don't want to do it. I don't want anyone to see it. I don't want anyone to think that I thought this was good. And for that, I think, like, pull off the Band-Aid, jump in, wear the thing. He's 3, he's cute on his own. If this is hideous, oh well, this will not be the ugliest thing that he's worn. And I don't actually think it's hideous. I think it will be cute. So you've got to, sometimes you just got to like hold your breath and go for it. And this is definitely one of those. Sometimes it feels easier for me to do that for myself when I'm making myself something versus if I'm making something to give to someone else. There's sort of that extra level of like, but will they like it? And when you're dealing with a 3-year-old, the answer is sometimes, no, I hate it. They don't have the sort of reputation saving graces as grown-ups do. But those are kind of the main categories to me of when you get started out on a project. Sometimes leave it till the weather changes again. Acknowledge that you're never going to do it and be done with it. If you're stuck because there's a specific issue, figure out what that specific issue is and then what you can do to fix it. If you're just really close to done and kind of scared of launching it out into the world, like get over yourself and do it anyway. I feel like those are the main 4 that trip me up at least. So I hope that it was helpful. I hope you guys can be successful with other projects that you're working on. And more than anything, I hope that you have air conditioning in your house because I can see the thermostat and it's 104. So I am going to go into the air conditioning of my house and I will see you guys all next week.